All right, let's talk about something I think we all know a little too well. It's that nagging inner voice. You know the one that just seems to crank up our anxiety. Today, we're going to dive deep into that powerful connection, and more importantly, figure out how we can start talking back.
So, have you ever had this happen? You're just chilling, everything's peaceful, and then bam! Out of absolutely nowhere, this wave of anxiety just hits you. It's such a weird and honestly a super common feeling. And you know what? The answer almost always points back to one single thing. What's happening inside our own heads?
All right, so to really get a handle on this, we've got to figure out where this anxiety is coming from, right? We need to put a name to the face, or, well, a name to the voice. So let's start by shining a huge spotlight on that voice in our heads, the one psychologists call our inner critic.
So what are we really talking about when we say negative self-talk? It's not just, feeling down. It's more like a constant running commentary playing in your mind. It's that automatic voice that just loves to criticize, assume the absolute worst, or turn a tiny little problem into a full-blown catastrophe. It's the voice whispering, "You can't do this," or "Everything's about to go wrong."
And look, the impact of this isn't small, it's huge. This inner critic shoves us into what's called rumination. Think of it like a mental hamster wheel. You're just running and running on the same negative thought over and over, and you can't get off. And you can probably guess it's absolutely exhausting. It just sucks the life out of you, ruins your mood, and yep, research confirms it, it's tied directly to more anxiety and makes it way harder to recover when life knocks you down.
Okay, so now we see how this voice works. Let's look at how it builds on itself, creating this really vicious cycle. To make it super clear, we're going to look at a couple of everyday examples of how this inner critic totally hijacks a situation.
First up, let's meet Sarah. So, picture this. Sarah's got a big presentation at work. She's practicing, she's doing her thing, and she messes up one word. Just a tiny little slip. Now, for a lot of people, this is nothing, right? You just move on. But for Sarah, that tiny trigger is about to unleash an absolute avalanche.
And boom, there it is. Her inner critic doesn't even hesitate. It doesn't go, "Whoops, let me fix that." Nope, it goes straight for the jugular, jumping to the most extreme nuclear option possible. One tiny mistake instantly becomes this massive verdict on who she is as a person.
And it doesn't stop there, of course. The spiral just keeps going down. That self-attack then turns outward, and she starts projecting her own fears onto everybody else. Suddenly, it's not just her own mean voice she's hearing. It's the imagined mean voice of the entire room. And just like that, a tiny little slip-up has snowballed into crippling anxiety.
Okay, let's look at another classic case. This is Mark. Now, Mark gets invited to hang out with his friends, but he almost always says no. And it's not because he's antisocial or doesn't like them, it's because that inner voice of his beats him to the punch every single time.
I mean, before he's even decided what to wear, his inner critic has already written the end of the story. This thought has zero evidence to back it up. None. It's just a preemptive strike from his own mind that builds this huge wall between him and the people who actually care about him.
And this is the perfect trap, right? A classic self-fulfilling prophecy. This thought just cements his choice to stay home. And because he avoids going out, he never gets the opportunity to see that his fear is wrong. He never gets the chance to have a good time. So the cycle just gets stronger and the isolation gets deeper.
So, if any of this is sounding familiar, if you're seeing a bit of yourself in Sarah or Mark, you're probably asking, why? Why does my brain do this to me? Well, here's the most important thing I can tell you. You are not broken. This isn't a personal failing. It's actually a really common and well-understood feature of how the human brain works.
The fancy psychological term for what's happening here is cognitive distortions. But honestly, a better way to think of them is like faulty filters on your camera or like funhouse mirrors. They're these automatic shortcuts your brain takes to try and make sense of the world quickly. The problem is, these shortcuts are often, well, wrong. They twist and bend reality until everything looks way worse than it actually is.
And this is where things start to get really hopeful. This brings us to a super effective way of dealing with all this, called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. The whole idea behind CBT is actually pretty simple but revolutionary. It's not the event that causes anxiety, it's the story you tell yourself about the event. And if you can change the story, you can change how you feel. It puts the power back in your hands.
And this isn't just a nice idea. The science absolutely backs it up. Major studies, like ones in the Lancet Psychiatry, have shown that when it comes to long-term relief from anxiety, CBT is a real powerhouse. In fact, it often works better in the long run than medication alone. Why? Because you're not just treating symptoms. You're learning skills. You're rewiring the system, and that pays off for the rest of your life.
So that leads us perfectly into the best part of this whole explainer, the practical stuff. The what you can actually do about it part. Let's open up the toolkit, shall we? We're going to go through 5 powerful science-backed strategies that you can start using, like today, to begin rewriting that negative script in your head.
Okay, tool number 1, cognitive restructuring. This is a game changer. Look at this. You take that instant gut punch of a thought, like Sarah's "I'm a total failure," and you don't just let it run the show. You stop it in its tracks. You hit it with one simple but incredibly powerful question. Hold on. Is this thought a fact or is it just a feeling? That one little question is everything. It creates just enough breathing room to break the spell.
All right, next up we have a beautifully simple one, thought stopping. It's exactly what it sounds like. The moment you notice you're on that negative hamster wheel, step 1, you just notice it. Step 2, in your head, you just yell, stop. Seriously, like a command. It's like hitting a mental emergency brake. It shatters the momentum. And then, the most important part, step 3, you replace it, not with some cheesy positive affirmation, but with a simple, neutral truth. Something like, I'm a human being and I'm allowed to learn.
Tool number 3 is something called concreteness training. Here's the deal. Your anxious brain is a drama queen. It loves to generalize. It takes one little thing and screams, I always screw up, or everything is ruined. This technique is the kryptonite to that drama. You fight back with specifics. You force your brain to answer the reporter's questions. Where exactly did this happen? When? Who is there? Getting concrete like this anchors you in reality and stops your brain from spiraling into those big, vague, scary stories.
Strategy number 4 is a killer combo. Mindfulness plus self-compassion. So mindfulness helps you take a step back and just watch your thoughts. You see them for what they are, just thoughts, not facts. Like clouds drifting by in the sky. You don't have to grab onto them. And then self-compassion comes in and adds a layer of kindness. It's basically treating yourself the way you'd treat a good friend who's having a tough time. You'd say, hey, this is hard right now, not what's wrong with you. Together, these two literally change the relationship you have with your own mind.
And finally, our 5th tool, and please do not sleep on this one, talk it out. That negative inner critic is like a gremlin. It absolutely thrives in the dark and silence of your own mind. The second you say those thoughts out loud to someone you trust, you drag it out into the sunlight. And hearing a friend just say, whoa, that's not you, that's just your inner critic talking, can be the most grounding, powerful reality check you will ever get.
Okay, we've looked at the problem, we've looked at the science behind it, and we've loaded up our toolkit. So let's boil it all down to the one single idea I really want you to walk away with. The big takeaway.
This, right here, this is it. If you remember nothing else from our time together, please remember this. That critical voice in your head, it is not who you are, it's not your identity, it is a learned habit, a pattern your brain picked up somewhere along the way, probably trying to protect you. And the beautiful, amazing thing about learned habits, they can be unlearned. They can be replaced.
So I'm going to leave you with this question, because now the ball is officially in your court. You've got the tools. You see the game being played in your head. So the next time that inner critic pipes up and starts its old, tired story, you have a choice. You don't have to just sit there and take it. It's talking. The question is, what are you going to say back?